Welcome to Fairfield Public Access Television. I'm Susan Kessel here for Opening Fairfield Doors with co-host Connie Boyer. And our show is brought to you today by our sponsor, Graf and Company. And we would like to thank them very much for doing that as a special part of our show that we do. Connie, you thought up this show, and I guess it could be titled several different things, Rocks and Gems, or lapidary work, or rock hounds, or Sack and Fox Lapidary Club, and Connie, I'd like you to introduce our guests.
Okay, our guests today are Dennis Caso and Bill Rathbun, and we're going to tell you about a show that's going to be coming up in September. It is the Gem and Mineral Show. It's September 11th and 12th. On Saturday, it's 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is $1 for adults, and children 5 to 12 a whole quarter. And I take it underneath that they get in free, huh?
Free.
Good, and it's at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds. That's on Highway 34 on the west edge of Fairfield. And we're going to tell you why everyone should come out to this, because it's going to really be interesting. We've got some beautiful pieces in front of us. So let's talk about the Sack and Fox Lapidary Club. Who wants to start?
Bill, you want to start? Since you're the oldest member of the group.
Let me begin by identifying what a lapidary is.
Good.
A lapidary is a person who polishes and cuts gemstones. So when we say Sack and Fox Lapidary Club, it sounds like what we're saying is that we're concerned only with the cutting and polishing of gemstones, but actually we are interested in all the phases of rock hounding, collecting, just looking for pretty rocks, or minerals, or fossils, or lapidary. Some of us do cut and gemstones and do inlay work and silversmithing and goldsmithing and faceting of stones. So there's a wide variety of interests that we have. And some people just come because they like those pretty rocks and they like to learn as much as they can about them, and our club's a good place to do that.
How long has your club been meeting?
Well, actually, our club began back in the 1950s, and it was organized in a tumbling. And then about 4 years ago, it had gone down so much that they were talking about disbanding the club, and Harold Johnson here in town suggested and encouraged them to let them move it to Fairfield. And he brought it over here, and we started to organize it here in town, and now it's running 55 members. And
that's great.
55.
That's great.
That's great.
So
all ages.
Do you meet monthly, or?
We meet once a month. We meet on the third Thursday of each month, First Baptist Church, 7 o'clock in the evening. We usually have some business, then we have a break for some goodies and all the groceries that we like to eat, those sweet things. and then we have a program of some type. And that program may be one of the club members, or sometimes we bring in someone from the outside. And we just have a lot of fun. It's a fun group, and we've got all ages in it. We've got kids in it, and some of our most active members are kids, and we really enjoy them.
That's great. Well, we were talking before we started that we think every kid at some point in their life has to have a rock collection. Mm-hmm. So you can see where the interest comes.
Yeah, and I said, that some of us never grow up. We just go on collecting rocks.
Well, I have found there's so much to know about rocks. There's so much information and history of the land. My grandfather was a geologist, and so I grew up with him collecting rocks and explaining different things, and different places where you live have different things. And so I'm really excited about doing the show and hearing you tell about some of the things around here that people don't know.
Dennis, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got interested in rocks, and tell us some of the work that you do.
I got interested about 52 years ago.
52.
when
Okay.
when you grow up, you're a kid, you pick up rocks. But I had an uncle who was a rock hound, and he got me interested in rocks. And then I got out of it for a while, and then about 20 years ago, I started getting interested again. And but I think he was my main inspiration. In fact, I have a lot of the things that he made at home. He was a lapidary like Bill. Did beautiful work, and I have some of his work at home, and he's been my main inspiration. And I think there's nothing like going out and finding a treasure, being surprised. That surprise of finding something that's been there for a long, long time, hidden, usually hidden from man, and all of a sudden finding it, and the surprise you get, and the joy you get from finding that. And then a person like Bill comes along and he can make something very, very beautiful out of that. You can polish it. He has a number of things here. Just a regular stone you can pick up out in your driveway. It's amazing what you can do. Put them in a tumbler and tumbling them, and they come out beautiful.
That's what they look like before when you find them. And just looks like a lot of rocks that you find, and not all that big a deal, but once you polish it.
And explain what a tumbler is.
A tumbler is a device. Actually, there are several different kinds of them. Some of them is a machine that's got a little round barrel, like you put the rocks in it, you put grinding material in it, and you put it on and let it, and water as well, and you let it run for usually a week, and then you take it out, you clean it all off, and you put the next grade of grinding material in it, and you put water back in it, and you run it for another week, and you do that through 4 successive, each grit, as they call it, of the tumbling material, you get smaller and smaller. And
Kind of like sandpaper.
Like
yeah,
sandpaper.
it's like sandpaper.
Exactly.
Rough to find.
And the final one is a polish, and when you get through after 4 weeks, so that's what they look like.
So it does have a finished polish on it.
Yeah, it has.
I mean, like rocks in a river that have been, they look really pretty when they're wet.
Yeah.
And then you take them out, and it's not quite as pretty.
They'll come out looking like these.
Okay.
Now, this is the way you would start, and basically that first one just grinds it down to to take all the rough stuff off, because it's a pretty coarse sandpaper as it is. And as you run it, it actually wears the grit itself down as well. So you take it out, and some people have even left it go for 4 weeks, starting with that first one, or for 3 weeks.
Tumbling around for 4 weeks.
Yeah. And then they finally put the polish in it. But I don't think that's... if you get one piece of grit in there that's large, it can leave scratches on the rest. So you really clean it up is what you do.
Are there some things that you can't tumble?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of rock that is not polishable. It's too soft, it's the wrong kind of material. Most of the rock that we can polish or such, that's common enough for us, most of us, to have, is a silicon-based rock of some kind, quartz base or something of that nature. It'll be a jasper or a calcinity of some kind, some form of it. And
So interesting. Let's go back to Dennis here. We'll kind of take turns here, going back and forth, so you both can share time.
Yeah.
Now Dennis works with rock. He builds fireplaces and fences and
Ponds.
So this is what you do for a
Anything
living.
with rock, yeah. It seems like I'm into rocks a lot.
You're kind of in your element when
Yeah,
you're in your work
in
when
my
you're working,
element.
aren't you?
Yep.
he's really an artist, you know.
Can you tell us some of the projects that you've done? Are there projects around here that people could go by and say, "Oh, this is what Dennis made"?
Well, at the end of B Street, there's a big, it's the Kaplan residence at the big mountain on the right-hand, or on the left-hand side of the road as you're heading north. And we did a big retaining wall there. Many of the projects I've done are kind of off the road. You can't really see them. But it varies from ponds to fireplaces to retaining walls to flagstone walkways. But anything has to do with stone. Wainscot around a house, anything that has to do with stone.
Have you ever been to the Grotto in Iowa?
Yes, I have.
Isn't that neat?
Yes, it is.
I bet.
It's wonderful.
A treasure for you to enjoy.
Yes, that's if anybody hasn't been there, I think it's in West Bend.
That,
I haven't been there.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful project that a priest started about 100 and something years ago, and he passed away, didn't finish the project, passed it on to another priest, taught him how to do it, and then he's finishing up the project and maintaining the project. So it's quite a labor of love, and people from all over the world have donated material for that project. It's amazing, the interest. Once people found out what he was doing, they just started sending him all this stuff.
We'll have to do a road trip and go there. It's
There you
so
go.
neat.
It's fun. It's up in the northwest corner.
It's
and
really far away.
It's a ways away, but it's a fun thing to go to. It's very fun.
Dennis, can you tell us some interesting places that you've gone and just dug for rocks? I know you've been to Arkansas to
been
dig
to-
for crystals.
Been to Arkansas.
You should tell about that little, do they still have that?
Yes, they do.
Will you tell about that
They have
contest?
they have a contest down there, and I think it's the first week of October. It's the World Champion Crystal Digging Contest. And your husband, who never had dug crystals before, I took him down there, and he won second prize the first time.
What'd you win, Dennis?
I just watched that time.
So are these just out in the dirt?
No, he won
in the
first
rock?
prize.
Yeah.
He won first prize. First time he ever done it, and he won first prize. But
Yeah, so where do you go? Where's this at?
it's in Mount Ida, Arkansas.
Do you have to use like a pick and a shovel?
Yeah, picking a shovel and a lot of luck.
It's an old red clay material that they bring out, and has all these crystals in it, and they blast it out really.
Yeah, they're basically mining commercial grade crystals down there to sell to people all over the world. It's one of the biggest deposits of quartz crystals in the world. It's in a sandstone, and it's pretty exciting. It's always fun. Like I said before, it's always fun to dig for something and find.
You're like finding a diamond
Yeah.
or something.
And so I've dug down there. I've dug all through the West. One of the most exciting trips was going to Colombia looking for emeralds. I got invited to go along with a bunch of geologists to tag along and look for a new emerald deposit in Colombia. And we didn't find it, but it sure was fun. And we ran into a great guy that looked like Juan Valdez, a guy who picks Colombian. But around Iowa, we have a few places. Iowa's very, very famous for its geode locality down around Keokuk. And if you go anywhere in the United States and somebody starts talking about geodes, everybody knows about Keokuk. So we have our geodes here. We do have fossils, a lot of fossils in Iowa. And in some of the old quarries, we have calcite, marcasite, some fluorite, not gem grade material. You can't make jewelry out of it because it's too soft. So people use it for mineral specimens. So if you can get into any old quarry, there's a possibility of finding some really fun things. In fact, we have some field trips that goes to the Buffalo Quarry over by Davenport. The Midwest isn't known for its great mineral specimens, but we do have things here that are a lot of fun to find.
Galena you can find around this area some, and not around the Fairfield area, but up around Dubuque and in that area.
Dubuque is famous for its, what Galena is, it's a lead mineral. And back in the 1800s, they found some deposits of galena around Dubuque.
Well, actually, even before that, Dennis, it was
The Indians.
These Indians and the Spanish mines that were up in that area, and then Julian Dubuque came in there to mine galena, and was named after him.
Well, did the Indians use it to make their utensils?
Galena is real malleable, so you can shape it, kind of shape it. So I
Looks
imagine
like
they,
lead.
I imagine they melted it down and made.
They sold it to the white man primarily because much of the Revolutionary War lead came from around the Dubuque area. Much of the lead that the Continental Army had came from that area. So
That's interesting.
It is interesting because one thing is that area is one of the areas that didn't get touched by the glaciers. It didn't get covered over. And so the Galena deposits were exposed to, they were on the surface. So that's how they found those deposits, because it wasn't, wherever the glaciers went, it covered this huge massive alluvial deposit over the topsoil or over the limestone and buried everything. But in this one area up through Dubuque, in that area, you can tell because of the topography of the area, you can see the canyons and things. It's not as flat. The lead deposits were more exposed to people coming along.
I just loved being with my grandfather growing up, with him being a geologist, because he took me to Alaska when I was 11, and he would talk about the glaciers and where they came, and even from here and going up, traveling in the 60s, you could see the rock, and he'd say, see, now you're getting more and more rocks out the field, and you can see where the glacier started to lose the rocks, and it was just interesting. I just loved it.
were you aware that you can actually find diamonds in the Mississippi River?
No, when are we going?
Yeah,
About a half an hour.
there's been some
What are we doing
large
tomorrow?
ones found there.
Were those carried there by the glaciers?
Yeah, that's how they got there. We assume. We don't know exactly where they came from, though now they are finding large deposits up in northern Canada of diamonds that they could well have come from there. But they undoubtedly would be a float that came down with the glaciers.
Oh, fascinating. Well, we have to show people this piece that Bill actually made. And do you want to tell us about the rock? Can you see this, Richard? Since we're talking about things that you can find in Iowa.
This is a coral. It comes from up around Coralville, and if you can get a good piece like this is, it makes a very beautiful, polished gemstone. It's a kind of an orange. They used it, interestingly enough, there was a company in Fort Madison that made doorknobs out of this back in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And so if you're lucky enough to find some of those old doorknobs, you're even...
I would love to have some of those.
They're beautiful. They're kind of a pinkish.
Oh, yeah. These are just gorgeous.
And I thought it was really neat. I didn't realize that that's why Coralville is called Coralville, because of
The coral.
the coral.
Coral,
Which,
right here.
and I said most people think of Hawaii when they think of coral. And also the big piece there, is that what this necklace would have looked like before polished or cut?
This piece really looked like it was a piece that had sheared off here, so it was much more exposed, but it would look very similar to this. And if you look at that, the surface of that, you can see how it's very similar to that. If you get a good piece of this, colored right and such, this is part of the fun of hunting, and you slice it, it will give you those same shapes. And if it's colored like that, then it's now this probably is a kind of a grayish color if you cut it, so it wouldn't be what is normally called a good gemstone piece. It needs to be very solid. It needs to be the right coloration to be able to cut it and make a gemstone out of it. But you never know. In fact, you were about looking for the treasure. You look for the treasure as you find it. I look for the treasure when you cut it and you see it. And
you said this piece was found close by?
Yeah, this is found down around Lockridge and Rome and such in there. Down in the valleys, some of the cuts and such, you can pick up pieces like this. So,
Where did you find your big geode?
Well, actually, we didn't find that.
Okay,
We traded some money for that one. But it was found down here in the Keokuk area, and that's where it came from. And it's a larger than normal specimen. It's a very nice specimen. Many of the people go down within a 35-mile radius of Keokuk. You find this in Illinois or Missouri or Iowa.
Are they going to run out of those? They're just going to continue.
Well,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not for a long time to come.
Okay.
They are in this Warsaw layer of the formation, Mississippian formation, and they're you just dig them out of hard rock, or they weather out of that hard rock, and if they weather out, that's where you find them in the
Most of them are found in creek beds where they've eroded out. So you think about it, that the Warsaw Zone covering.
Why is it called Warsaw Zone?
Why is it called the Warsaw Zone?
Named after
Mr.
someone.
Warsaw.
Everybody knows that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
It's, you know, the various geological layers are named, and why they're named specific things, I'm not that much of a geologist,
Right.
but
That
they
doesn't
are,
matter.
they represent time zones. And without giving specific dates, you can say these are the various time zones that these formations were created, and they time them largely by the fossils they find in them. That's how they know about what, assuming a evolution of life, they would say this is about the time that was. And they would estimate within certain millions of years.
So it's within the Mississippian.
Yeah.
So what came first, the Mississippi River? Who named what first, the Mississippi River or the Mississippi?
I think so, yes.
Or the Mississippian?
I don't know about whole process.
I
Sounds
don't.
like a debate.
Yes, I don't think we're to get into that one.
So what were you going to say about the Warsaw?
A lot of geodes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of geodes there, and it's just maybe there's 20 occurrences.
Yeah,
And
I'll tell you a good time to look for geodes. Several good times. One is look for them in the spring after the winter freezes and the spring rains wash them out. Second thing is they're coming up with Avenue of the Saints, and they're going to be cutting road cuts all up through there, and that's going to go right through that Warsaw layer and section. And there will probably be a lot of geodes there if you're there at the right time. And
You mean right along where they're building the highway?
yeah, they'll
Well,
cut-
are you allowed to go out there, though?
I imagine you could go out there.
well, it depends on what time of the day.
Take your
Probably.
bucket after
Your flashlight?
after they stop
Right.
working.
It's not, if it's not bothering anything.
Yeah, after they've stopped
I
working.
suppose, yeah. Fascinating.
You'll find out if you're not supposed to real
I'm
fast.
sure they'll let you know.
Yeah, always,
right.
always ask for permission. Anytime you go rock hunting or going out, always check with the property owners or the proper people.
Now, does this area of interest get into arrowheads or anything like that?
We have some members that are very interested in arrowheads, and
I
We
think
have
they used
one
to be
member
really
that makes his
plentiful.
own. I mean, you know, he's
called flint napping.
Yeah, flint napper, and he's getting pretty good at it. So,
so there is an interest because some of the material that we show here that you can make arrowheads out of.
yeah. In fact, you can make arrowheads out of much of this material that's a silicon base. Obsidian, which is nature's glass, that's a
I
obsidian
remember
can.
seeing a lot of that in Yellowstone Park, obsidian.
You'd see it all out in the
Cliffs.
west. Where there's been volcanic action, you would see obsidian.
This is a very dark piece. I don't know if you can
Yeah.
see that, Richard. It's very dark,
Black. Pure
black. Well, this kind of has some brown shading in it, some streaks.
This is called obsidian. What's the not hickory? Obsidian. Suddenly, it's
Oh, with the brown in it?
yeah,
It almost looks like a wood grain.
yeah. It is
Mahogany.
Mahogany. That's
obsidian.
it. And it goes from a lot of brown to just little streaks of it. So it varies. You never get. One of the fascinating things is you never get two stones that are alike. They're always different. Here are the agates, but if you look at these agates closely, what you'll see is every one of them have lines that are shaded differently. You just have a whole variety of stones and their shades and their design. That's what makes it interesting.
Now, on the sheet there with all the different examples, oh, there's so many different things to learn about rocks. You were talking about, what was that word your wife used when it's not attached to a piece of jewelry? It's not.
Oh, a cabochon?
Yeah, a cabochon.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
A cabochon means that it is a cut gemstone. Now, it can be calibrated. These are calibrated, the ones that have certain sizes and dimensions to them.
Okay.
Or it can be free-form, and a free-form will be trying to follow the natural design of the stone itself, and you merely polish it kind of as it creates itself.
Now, can you describe for people what they are?
Well, we have Iowa coral up here, which we were talking about a few moments ago. Azurite, this is a rainforest jasper from Australia. Chrysoprase, which is from Australia, is a pretty...
So none of those can be found here?
No, these can. Now, this is just river agates here. These two happen to be from South Dakota. I found them in them as we were out at a river one time. You can find, around here, you can find the Lake Superior agates, which are fairly common. Many of them carried down by the drift, glacier drift, or carried down in the rivers, and just in plain old river gravel. Now, you won't find this in road gravel, that white crushed rock gravel. That's not a good place to look. It's limestone and it's not polishable. But river gravel, you'll find.
What's that clear, glassy looking one?
That's a rutilated quartz. It is just a clear quartz with rutil in it, and it's you see them as kind of golden hairs. Those are actually crystals of the mineral that's formed inside of the quartz. The quartz formed around it. Sugilite, which is from Africa, that's a beautiful dark purple. It goes anywhere from a light purple to a dark purple in color. Blue lace agate is from Africa. Turquoise from Arizona. Opal, which can be many different colors, and most of us think of it as that white with the play of colors that are in it, but opal actually can be the orange, which is called fire opal, and the other is called precious opal. It can be a clear kind of jelly appearance, and then usually what we do is we put a black doublet on the back of that, and that brings the color out. Malachite we brought back from Zaire when we came from there in '75, and I had enough to keep it polished. The Graveyard Point agate is what we dug out in Oregon, and found a big 25-pound piece that we brought back, and I'm still cutting on that. And that's something.
So you've traveled a lot.
Yeah, we usually plan our trips around either genealogy or rock hounding, and usually it combines the two somewhere.
Well, this is a good show to have after our previous one on genealogy with Bert Baird.
That's what I heard you.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm curious about, now I've always heard that opals are soft stones, is that correct?
Yes, it
They
is.
have to be careful
They're very
not
soft.
to, if you got them in a ring, not to chip them. And
Yeah, and you have to be careful, I think, with soap. Washing your dishes with your opal.
Don't put them in ammonia, for sure. You ever so often you ought to put your opal into water and let it soak some. It seems to help. It seems to keep it alive and fresher.
I know. I heard milk once. Is there anything to that?
I've never heard milk. But
That's for milk opal.
yeah, that's. See,
There's
this,
such a thing? Yeah, I didn't think
I
so.
think we believe anything they told us.
this white opal actually was clear opal until he started soaking it in milk.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so from time to time, I mean, if you have opal jewelry, you should soak it in water.
It's very heat sensitive. You want to be careful not to get it hot. It will craze, what they call craze, which is just like you've seen windshields that will suddenly just go the whole thing be cracked, you know, and they will do that.
What about malachite? Is there any care instructions for that
It's
you
a
know
soft
of?
stone. Yeah, it's a soft stone too. So you shouldn't put it in with other jewelry. Keep it in a bag or such as that that's going to keep it from being scratched. One of the identifying factors of stone is its hardness, and you want a hard stone for it to wear well. Some you like just because they're pretty and they're not that hard, and you have to be careful. And actually, turquoise is usually not a real hard stone. Opal is not a hard stone. Malachite isn't. Any of the agates or any of the silicon-based material often is harder. The chrysoprase, which basically is green calcedony, is a hard stone. So jaspers are like that.
I have always loved turquoise, and I guess growing up in California and traveling through Arizona, you see where it comes from, and they have so much silver and turquoise. And I noticed you have a ring on with
Yeah,
turquoise.
I bought that out on the reservation in Arizona one year, and I wanted something that was made by the Indians, and there's an interesting story that goes with that. I didn't realize it at the time, but it's signed on the back, and it's JVB. And I was out there again a couple of years ago, and I went into the same trading post, and I said I was looking, and he said, "Oh, you got a Jimmy Begay ring on?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'd recognize it anywhere. You want some more?" He's still making them, and we talked and such. The next day, I was reading about the code talkers in World War II that spoke the Navajo and were used particularly in the Pacific section of the war. And they spoke in Navajo because Japanese never did break that code and never did recognize because it's such a little used language outside the reservation. And one of the names and pictures that was in the book was Jimmy Begay. And so I'm wearing one of the code talkers' rings.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
That's good.
We should, why don't we take a teeny little break and tell people what we're doing? You want to do
Yes, we are here. Connie are hosting our Opening Fairfield Doors show, and we're talking about gem and rocks with our guests, Dennis
Caso.
Caso and Bill Rathbun. And we've also mentioned that the Rock and Gem show is coming up, and that is September 11th and 12th, coming up soon. How many years have this show been held?
Well,
grown.
the club, when it was in Ottumwa, held it for some years up into the mid-1980s. And then they just had grown so small that they couldn't handle it anymore. And we tried it the first year it came, the club moved here in 1996, wasn't it? And, or 95. And I was a little hesitant. I thought, oh boy, taking off on something like this. And so it's been here since 1995, and it's grown every year.
I think, from what I've heard, it's grown fantastically.
It's about double what it was originally. Well, it's a little better than double.
And it is at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, and it sounds really interesting. People can go see all the displays. Do you know how many displays you'll have?
No, I can't tell you because I'm not
They're still-
responsible for the displays.
Okay. Probably still registering. And
Yes, I think there'll be about a half a dozen displays at least.
Oh, there'll be, yeah, at least that. We're having displays by dealers, for one thing, but there's some of the rest of us that will be creating displays as well. But we're having section as well on education in terms of books and materials. We've got a bookstore this year that's going to be bringing providing us books and to sell, and we've got material from the Department of Natural Resources here in Iowa, and we got posters from Canada, and in fact we've prepared a packet for teachers. And we have 50 of those packets that are prepared. And for science teachers, we've got it free of charge. And
that is great. I was going to say this is a really educational opportunity for parents to take children or teachers to visit, because there's nothing like learning hands-on and seeing this. And that's why being with my grandfather was so important to me, and learning all the things that there is to learn about through rocks.
And some of these people will have display jewelry to sell, is that correct?
Yes, we have 11 dealers.
Yeah.
11 dealers this year. And they cover Missouri,
I'm just
Illinois, Iowa,
yeah.
Wisconsin.
No, the dealer from Wisconsin will not be here this year, but we will have one from Nebraska. They'll be coming from all over the state, and several states. In fact, we will draw people. Last year we drew people from 76 different communities, and we drew from 5 states, if I remember correctly, that came here just for the show.
I think word of mouth,
Yeah.
when they hear that you're having this, that's really neat.
Also the dealers, just a plug for Fairfield, they love to come to Fairfield. They say the people are fun. It's a great facility out at the fairgrounds. They look forward to the show. It's kind of low-keyed show.
Yeah.
Friendly people. We have a good time.
Yeah.
So every year they sign up, even before the show is over. They're signing up for the next year to come back again.
Yeah.
So.
Great.
Anytime you get a group of people together with that common interest, it's fun to get together.
Yeah, and absolutely, it doesn't cost very much to go, so you can take the whole family and afford it. So I hope that Fairfield turns out in good numbers.
And it's a Saturday and a Sunday.
We've got another thing that was very popular last year, and had no idea it was going to be this popular, really, because it was kind of a last-minute thing, but it's called the Old Glory Hole Mine. And it's really just a cardboard front with a little track that runs out and a Tonka truck that comes out, and people, kids put their ticket in there, and it goes back in, and it picks up a load of gravel, and it brings it out and dumps it.
This is Bill's creation.
They get to look for their own rocks, and we make sure there's something in there for them to get.
Oh, great. What fun.
Talking about Bill's creation, I think what you do with your rocks after you've cut them, the lapidary after that, is really neat. And I don't know if Richard can show one of these pictures. On the wall behind me, it's the inlaid artwork.
Can you tell us some of the materials that you've used in those?
Well, the deer is primarily onyx, other than he's got an Apache tear for his eye there. But it's different kinds of onyx. The ducks are primarily some form of chalcedony or jasper. The features in the ducks are in the stone. We're in the stone naturally, so you had to find a piece of stone that had exactly what you wanted in it in order to create the picture, and the eye and the bill and such as that in the one duck, and both the ducks are in the stone naturally already. I've had one piece that I've been working on for 20 years just to get the right colored
Just to
stones.
find the right one, and you
Yeah.
haven't found it yet, maybe.
Well, I pretty well got it now.
Uh-huh.
So.
Now, is that what these are here that I'm
Yeah,
looking
those
at?
are the inlays. I do silversmithing as well, and
So did
Look
you
at
make?
this, see this one.
Yeah.
Did you make this?
yeah, I made the silver, and then I cut the stones to go in there. Takes about an hour a stone to cut it and set it and polish it. So a piece will have something like that. Will have a number of hours of work in it.
So what tools do you use to cut this? It's not your, normal kitchen
Oh,
paring
You
knife.
mean by stone?
So tell us about how you cut these things.
You actually, I just happen to have some.
Good.
Just happen to have.
Just happened
Here in the living room.
Yeah, well, you might find anything about rocks in the living room. I have a diamond blade saw that I use to cut material into slabs like that. Now, would you guess what
Just
that?
slice it.
Just slice it into slabs. Do you have any idea what that is?
Not a clue.
Not
Let
a
me
clue.
look. This isn't petrified rock or petrified wood, is it?
Well, it's petrified something, but it's not wood.
Looks like floor tile.
Floor tile. Petrified floor tile.
Ah, how about
I've
that?
been around a long time.
Does it have anything to do with dinosaurs?
Yes, it would have something
Really?
to do with.
Bone?
Yes. That's petrified dinosaur. Yeah,
Where did you get
seriously.
that?
That's what it is. If you look closely, you can see the cell structure.
Oh. Where did you get that?
Or you can buy it, you can hunt it. A lot comes from North and South Dakota.
Can you see that, Richard? Get it up here close.
Now, one of the things that you've got to do or be able to do if you're going to be a good rock hound is you've got to be able to spit.
I remember doing that when I was a child on stones because they always look prettier.
Yeah,
because
they're wet.
when they're wet, they look more like they're going to look when they're polished. And that shows you a little more.
Rules of the road. Remember that.
That's really a kind of emergency kind of thing. Usually we carry a little spray bottle and spray it on there.
The
So.
term agate liquors.
Yeah, yeah.
Could have
Now-
named your club the Agate Lickers.
We could have.
One of the things is true. If you've got one of these little sprayers, like you use in your garden, that's a good way to hunt agate. You spray rock, and they will get that
I don't
kind
think
of
I'd
glossy.
reach very far.
Oh, it'll. I mean one of those pump ones.
Okay. Okay, I got to get serious here. What other tools do you use?
Well, then what you would do, if I were going to cut this, now, for my inlay, what I will do is take that frame and literally take and put it on a stamp pad and then put it down on a piece of paper, which will give me the exact pattern of those. Then I cut those pieces out, and I have to turn them over and then put them on the rock itself, and then I cut around that pattern and
So someone could actually have a dinosaur necklace.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, wear a dinosaur around your necklace. Otherwise, we have, if you're going to make a gemstone, and it's going to be a calibrated size, well, you'll find a portion that you would like to make into a stone, take a piece of aluminum and you mark around it, and then you cut around it and cut everything away except what you're going to polish, and you got a gemstone.
Fascinating.
It's not a fast process.
No, it's
Very
not.
careful, I suppose.
Yeah, it takes time to do. The things that Bill has done here is if you think about it, there's a lot of hours. It's a labor of love. There's a lot of hours into that, and
this is another piece
beautiful.
that he's done. And you said this was an opal?
Yes, this is from Australia. It's a boulder opal. A boulder opal is an opal that's formed in matrix, and you get the matrix in there as well as part of the gemstone itself. And this is a very beautiful purple fire that's in it, and it just kind of dances around in there. So
it's really gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. Unfortunately, Bill said he did not sell his work, so I'm disappointed because I want this hummingbird.
Let me share one other thing with you that you might want to know about, and that's our precious opal gemstone necklace that we will be giving away as the not the door prize, the grand prize at the show, along with the specimen that's right here. And this is really a museum piece specimen. It's if whoever wins it doesn't want it, I'm sure the museum here would like to have it. And so it's a beautiful specimen. The necklace has 5 faceted stones around it. It was created by Gwen Miller, who is one of our dealers, one of our members, lives in Kirksville, and she has been written up in Lapidary Journal and is a nationally known designer.
It's a beautiful piece. You have a few other things here that we haven't talked about. This one, Connie said, is yours.
Yep.
A gift.
I brought show and tell. This was from Dennis, a gift to Bob and I for, Christmas.
Being friends.
For a birthday. I
Yes,
can't remember
something.
which occasion, because Dennis has given us a couple things.
Now, to
More than
me,
one, so.
it looks like it's painted blue.
Mm.
Is it painted blue?
No,
or
it's
is that
not.
natural?
It's
That is
natural.
natural.
This is azurite. It's a copper mineral, and it comes from Arizona. And the blue, actually, the Indians a long time ago used to crush it and make a pigment out of it and use it for a pigment for paints and things. But it's a little bit heavy. You can feel it. It has quite a bit of copper into it. This one other piece down here, malachite.
Is this like when you have copper dishes or plumbing and then it starts to turn this color?
Oxidizes.
This is what
It starts to oxidize. Your copper's
Okay.
starting to oxidize. So
Okay.
that's exactly what's happening. Then we have a piece of malachite down there. Do you want to hand that? That even has more. So that's much heavier. This piece here probably is 80% copper.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
So malachite is copper. Is that what you're saying?
and usually copper minerals are your blues and your green. Anything, most, that's not true of everything, but often that's the case, that the copper minerals are your blues and greens.
Yeah, that is incredible. That's heavy.
Yeah, you can feel that.
Well, I have a malachite necklace that my cousin sent to me when she was in South Africa. It's gorgeous, but it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy around your neck. It's interesting. It takes a little bit to get used to wearing it because it's heavy.
But they're beautiful minerals, the blues.
It
and
is
the
gorgeous.
greens.
It's very beautiful.
And if you get them with any kind of silica in with them, you can make jewelry out of them, and it's absolutely gorgeous jewelry.
Now, what is this one here? It looks like potato chips.
It does look, yes, this is Frito-Lay potato chip thing. We were looking at this the other day, petrified potato chips.
Can you hold that up to?
Yes, this is, my guess, it's a barite. And I would guess that it's crumbling all over my hand right now. I'd guess that it came from South Dakota, maybe one of the caves. There's a number of caves around the Black Hills. So it's typical of the barite that came out of that area, and then it has some little calcite crystals growing on the barite. The big ones are the barites, and the little ones are the calcites. And it's common of that area. So I have a feeling this came from one of the caves in South Dakota.
And what is that last one down there on the stand?
This actually is Iowa's most famous agate is called Keswick agate. Comes from a little town up by Sigourney, Keswick.
Keswick.
Yeah, it comes out of a quarry up there. And it's the only place in Iowa where you get this fortification, little patterns running through it. It's beautiful when it's polished. Some of the specimens are absolutely gorgeous. But
Now, dumb question. Was it named after the rock, or was the rock named after Keswick?
I think the rock was named after Keswick because that's the locality.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Well, you never know.
But it's Keswick agate is famous in Iowa because of the patterns it produces. It produces some beautiful browns and reds and white patterns.
But do people make jewelry out of it?
Yes, they do, and it's gorgeous.
I have a bola made out of it.
It's gorgeous, and it costs a little bit of money. People will actually pay some money for this stone. So
Now you mentioned the museum. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
here in town,
Yes.
we do have a mineral display in the old Carnegie, the old library. Upstairs, we have a couple of cases of stones from throughout the world and also some material from right here in Iowa. We're trying to get a totally Iowa case to show what there is in Iowa, and a lot of these things that we have here are local. The museum is open, I'm not sure of the hours.
Yes, I'm not either. It's
It could be by appointment right now, or special times that are set.
They were having once a month program once a month. I know we had a program up
We're
there.
just trying to figure out what's the best for the public right
Yes.
now.
I recently took my granddaughter up there,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh, she's going to love this stuff, the animals and stuff. Straight to the rocks.
The rocks.
And I thought, oh, how nice. I like that. She just was fascinated.
Yeah, it's a nice display. It's quite nice for for what we have here.
Great. Well, maybe when we get some more information, when it's more set,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we
it's-
can let people know what their hours are going to be, or if they can, how do they make an appointment to if they want to go see it?
Get a hold of
Gene.
Gene.
Lukey.
Yes.
Luke,
Okay.
Thank you.
He's the inspiration behind, and he has some other people helping him, but that's who we've talked to. And
Yes.
he's really interested in getting the museum more localized and making it available to the public, and just having some really nice things up there.
Now, does the Nature Center at Jefferson County Park, I believe they might have some small display?
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I haven't. I've been down at the park, but I've never.
Been in the Nature Center.
Never
That's another
gotten in
great
there.
educational place for
Yeah.
kids to go.
Great.
Revolves around nature in Iowa and land. And once again, I think we should tell that the Gem and Mineral Show in Fairfield will be September 11th and 12th, and that is a Saturday and a Sunday. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and 10 to 5 on Sunday at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, and everyone is welcome to attend and come out, bring your kids, and let them learn by seeing.
We're going to have some different dealers than we've had in the past. Several new ones this year. One of them will be specializing in fossils, particularly from Iowa, in this area particularly. Dennis is always there. Dennis has some of the finest specimens of various minerals of anyone I know around this part of the country. He really does. He's a rock hound from way back. And
52 years, you said. I don't believe that, but
so he's really got some excellent specimens. I've gone in that little house of his, and I come out with my eyes great big and my tongue hanging out. And yeah, he really has some nice material. We'll have one dealer there that we had there last year that does wire wrapping, which is making rings and such by wrapping square wire, gold-filled wire, which is beautiful work, just does outstanding work.
sounds very artistic and creative.
Great.
Gwen Miller will be there, as I said before, Gwen and Jay. And they like to come. This is probably the smallest show they do, but they like to come just because we hang loose and they enjoy it.
Sounds like you're lucky to have that person attend.
Yeah, we really are. We're very fortunate to have them.
Well, great. I wish we had another hour to talk about more stuff, because I know these guys are filled with more knowledge than I think we've just scratched the surface today. So Dennis, I really want to thank you, and Bill, thanks for letting us come to your home. And we hope that Fairfield shows out to the Gem and Mineral Show, being sponsored by the Sac and Fox Lapidary Club here in Fairfield. Come out and win a necklace or this great rock here on the floor.
And also thank you once again for sponsoring our show to Graff and Company. We appreciate that. And we look forward to Connie and I doing some more shows, and you'll never know what we're going to come up with.
And if you have some great ideas, please let us know. Call us at FPAC, leave us a message, 469-3225.
And thank you once again. Thanks, Connie.